Hey YouTubes, how's it going? All right, so what we're going to do in this video is go over things that you're going to need before you weld. Okay, we're going to go over prep, we're going to go over tools, we're going to go over the machine, and we're going to go over just some of the basic science of it about like what's happening when you're welding and why this all does what it does and that sort of thing. In the 8 years that I was teaching, man, knowledge is power because if you can understand what you're doing, it's going to make the outcome that much better. What I'm going to be doing today, because I am broke, just like probably most of you, I picked up a Harbor Freight welder for 50 bucks on Craigslist, and it's a pretty good machine, I gotta say, for what it is. But we're going to go over that and, just kind of show you how to use it and how it should be set up. Um, it's important. It's important because this is one of those things. It might be the machine. It might not be you. It might be the machine. So, yeah, whole bunch of knowledge. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, if you will. I'm going to keep doing more videos and, teach you fab techniques and that sort of stuff in future ones. But today is just about the tools that you're going to need to do this correctly. We're going to go over the machine. We're going to talk about welding and what's happening when you're welding, just basically like a little classroom thing. Yeah, so no welding this time, but we're going to get to that too. But this is really important. So, all right, let's go ahead and do it. All right, so first thing we're going to go over is tools. Obviously, you need a welding machine, right? But we're going to go over some of the hand tools. Now, this video is all about prep. I can tell you right now, if you want to know if a welder is worth his salt, ask him or her what the most important step is. And if they don't say preparation, I don't know, maybe you should run. So you got to get the job done right, and things have to be done right. You need to take out as many little opportunities for things to mess you up. So yeah, let's just start with the basics. So safety, okay? Man, I'll tell you what, safety gear is important. Eyeglasses, safety glasses, you gotta wear them, okay? And you even have to wear them under the hood. I'm not gonna get into preaching about it. That's all I'm gonna say about that. You should always have a good pair of gloves, okay? Something that has some sort of, a lining. Just the straight leather trucker gloves are great. They're fine, for sparks, stuff like that. But if you grab anything hot, which you're going to do, even if you don't want to, you're going to get burned, and it's going to ruin the glove. So, you can go get MIG gloves. You can go to a welding shop, get them on Amazon. You can even get, cheapy stick gloves like this. Whatever works for you. Just have on gloves, okay? Not rubber gloves, the nitrile gloves. Okay, we're welding. The little brown cotton gloves that are for like $1. I mean, if you gotta, I guess it's better than nothing, right? But really, get some leathers, okay? Right tools for the job. Everybody's got face masks now, right? So, oddly enough, I don't have one here, but a face mask is always great because I don't care what people say, you can't breathe these fumes in, all right? This is toxic stuff. When you buy a welding spool, sticks or whatever it is, there's going to be a sheet in there, and it's going to tell you all the bad stuff that comes with this, and that's no joke. So a mask is a great idea, okay? Of course, for welding, right, going to need a welding hood, right? This is a fancy schmancy auto darkening one, blah, 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 blah. I do this for a living, and well, to be honest with you, this is a Christmas gift, right? Because I don't have the kind of bread to get this kind of thing, hence the $50 Craigslist welder. Anyway, but this thing is great. Auto darkeners are great. I don't think they're necessary, but it really does help. I gotta say, it will help you out. So, you know, even if you get one of the cheapy ones at Harbor Freight or whatever, hey man, it'll get you. You know, it'll get you through. It'll get the job done. You know, don't let anybody talk shit about. Sorry, I curse. Don't let anybody talk shit about your tools. You know, that's not right. Everybody starts someplace, and you know, you'll get there, right? And you get tools all over the place, man. You can get great tools at garage sales. That's where I usually go and get all my stuff. Garage sales, flea markets, stuff like that. Sometimes I find stuff in the road. I found this last week. Yeah, so, you know, don't let people talk your gear down. Get whatever you can afford. If all you can afford is an old school passive helmet, right? Nothing wrong with that. Now that's not what I use this for. This is something else that I'll get to. So I always have my welding hood, but then I use this for grinding and cutting. Right? It's just an old school one. I got it at a garage sale, but it works great. I have a cutting lens in here. Which is a shade 5, opposed to what would be on your hood, which for welding it's a shade 9 through 12. The higher the number, the darker it gets. Shade 10, 11 is usually, I'd say, the average that most people use. If you're running real big heat and real big, you know, big power, that kind of thing, then you might need to go up to like 12. But for like most of the home stuff that, you know, you're going to be doing, this stuff's fine. A 10 is just fine. So yeah, so they're just hoods. And then, all right, some things specific for the welding. Well, these are for me. Readers. Yeah, I had to come to grips with it. I can't see anything close to me. Yep, it has come to this. So, yeah, so what I have to do now, I don't even get to have, like, cool safety glasses. This is my life now. This is my life. Oh, yeah. Huh? That's a good look, isn't it? That's nice. Oh, wow. Sorry, ladies, I'm taken. Anyway, so people do ask me, side note, why do I have crazy reading glasses? A couple of things that I've learned doing this. One, people don't usually admit that they need to use these. So they don't buy them, but they will borrow them. Unless they look like this. Not to mention everything else that I own is either green or black. So stuff like this stands out. I won't step on it and crush it. But I need these now. If you can't see, you can't weld. Okay? Specifically for welding, a wire brush. Okay? Prepping the material, we'll do that in another video when we're ready to actually weld. You know, we'll kind of go over that quick. But wire brush, got to remove rust, right? Got to make sure there are no contaminants. It's also nice for cleaning your weld after you're done. Okay, got to have it. Wire brush. Try to get a wooden one. These plastic ones with, you know, this is you know, more for cleaning like a car, not really, because this will just melt. So if you can get you need a chip and hammer. Okay, doesn't matter. You can get whatever. I even have one in there that I made with some basic tools, just because I didn't have one floating around. But you need a chippy. Okay. Pair of vice grips. So what I use this for is picking things up. Okay, you're gonna go and you're gonna spend money on your gloves. All right, and then you're gonna go and you're gonna do stuff like this with them. You go and you'll do it, and you'll pick up a hot thing. Okay, you're ruining your gloves. All right, and I know maybe it's no big deal for you, but I can't afford to run out and get gloves all the time. So I just have my little vice grips so that I can grab stuff and go ahead and dunk it, you know, to cool things down. I used to use channel locks. Guess why I don't? because something slipped out and it fell on my foot, and that was a bad day. So ice creams. Let's see. The other thing that I like to have around, which of course I don't have around right here, just generally for welding, is I usually like to have a flathead screwdriver, you know, or one of those like combo screwdriver things, because there are some things on the machine that you might need, and you know, just an old flathead just to kind of pry stuff maybe isn't bad. All right, so that covers, you know, some of your hand tools for welding. Now let's talk about something big. Grinder. Okay, now I'm broke. Okay, so I had to go to Walmart and get a grinder. It's not bad. It's not bad, to be honest with you. You know, I'm used to having you know, like a Metabo or a Milwaukee, something big. That's what I have at work. 11 amps, big engine. Okay, big motor. This is 6.5 amps. I'll tell you what, it takes a little longer to cut, but I like the way that this cuts better than I do the real powerful one from at work. I don't know, just me, call me crazy, but yeah, so far I don't have a problem with it. You know, honestly, for what I do here at home, this is fine, and it was $15, and there's a 2-year warranty, right? So what? So you know, I keep the I just keep the receipts for all this stuff just in a drawer somewhere, and you know, whatever, it's good. Grinders. Okay, so safety. I never, well, I shouldn't say never. There are times when you need to get in somewhere, grinding or cutting, and you can't do it with the guard. Hey man, you do what you gotta do, okay? But as soon as you can, then I strongly suggest you put the guard back on. I've seen some pretty nasty accidents because of these discs coming apart, and they do come apart. Not so much the grinding discs, more the cutting discs, you know, but they do, and it's nasty, and yeah, I don't know. So I won't use one with a cutting wheel if it doesn't have the guard. I mean, it's super rare that I will use one. Same thing with the handle. I like to control. You know, I not only use the flat surface, but a lot of times I use this edge. You know, I use that little kind of get in there. You know, when I'm in a seam or something, and that just gives you a lot of control. Just something that I like. So this is a regular grinding wheel, right? Right, you guys know what that is, right? Just the regular stone wheel. This is a flap wheel. I've heard people call it sanding disc. I don't know, but I've always known it as a flapper, right? These come in different grits. And then this is a used, but this is a cutting wheel, okay? See that? Should have taken this off the thing, but you see the thickness difference? Okay, guys. This is not a grinding disc, okay? This is not a grinding disc. If you put pressure on this thing this way, like you're grinding, okay? I mean, I didn't even mean to do that. Shit. Okay? That's coming off. All right? Now, when that happens, this whole thing comes apart. And, yeah. That's going to go probably places you don't want it to go. Keep the guard on. Wear your safety glasses and wear your shield. Okay? Cutting discs are for cutting. Period. Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy, because I guarantee one time it's going to bite you. It's going to bite you. Discs. Okay. I've seen this happen. I've seen it in shops. I've seen people take an 8-inch grind disc, like a 10-inch, work it down to 8, use it on an 8-inch grinder, work it down, and then put that disc then on a 4.5-inch grinder. That will come apart. What people don't pay attention to, on all of these discs, right there, see that? That says 13,300 max RPMs. That is what these little grinders put out. I don't know what this one does. I mean, not exactly that. It's geez. See? So this one, what is this? I don't see it. 11.5. Okay, so this is 11.5. If you look at discs for big grinders, they're all around 8,600, maybe up into the 9,000s. They'll come apart, so don't do that, okay? Right tool for the job, all right? Super important. Okay. Now, before I talk about a couple of tools that you'll need just for general fabrication, I'm going to talk to you about the welder's helper. Now, whoever came up with this, he doesn't weld for a living anymore. This is a great tool. You should have one. If you're a MIG welder, you should have one. It's got cutters for the wire. It's got right here to grip your contact tip, right? Needle, pliers, which that you can get into your shielding cone, clean your cone. This you can grab the cone with there, or crack walnuts. But these are great. You should have a pair of Welpers. These are really your best friend. I mean, yeah, I guess you can just use a pair of wire cutters. That's what I've used for years, but man, is this nice. All right, so here's a couple of tools that you should have just before you're even going into, going to weld, okay? You got good cutting discs. We're gonna cut straight. We're gonna go over ways to do that and stuff. You're gonna need clamps, okay? Spring clamps. I love these. You can use them with one hand. They hold pretty good. Depending on the clamp, you can go and you can pay $1 for a plastic one. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't use plastic stuff. Not with welding. Just don't. Okay. Spend a couple extra bucks. You don't have to spend a couple extra bucks on a lot of things, but this stuff, yeah, you might want to. Okay. So spring clamps. I love magnets. Okay, these are great, and this is an angle magnet, right? So that'll ensure that you get a proper 90 between things, right? Nice and tight. Magnets are great. And then, of course, an assortment of old school C clamps. This is a big 6-inch one. I've got a bunch of different, all different sizes. They're around. They're just being employed right now, holding projects together. But C clamps, you got to have your stuff. This is not a clamp. Okay, this is not a clamp. I really don't have much skin left on that thumb because I can't learn that. Okay, because what I do is this move, grinding it, and it's going to go over and bop. Okay, it won't bleed. And that's good, unless you take it right off. It won't bleed, that's good, but it's a bad day, guys. That's a bad day. All right, okay, so some fab tools beyond that. I love having slide rules, speed squares, things like this, right? Anything that makes it quick so that we can, you know, just get quick measurements. That's great. Okay, tape measure. You know, I just have a little one just for my little projects. I don't need to use my big fat max unless I'm doing something, you know, large like that. A couple tools, a Sharpie, something to get on your material, and yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. Oh, here, one last thing. So to go along with the wire brush, right? Remember we talked about wire brush? So we're gonna get a wood wire brush because these plastic ones are gonna melt. The other thing, these, right? These wheels. Now this is one that you can put on a drill. They do make them that you can put them on your grinder as well. They're great. Here's the thing. If you get them from Harbor Freight, if you get them, you know, you get really cheap ones, they're going to come apart. They're going to come apart. And these things are going to spin around, and it's going to throw these little needles out at really crazy speeds. So if you are going to get a cup brush or any kind of wire wheel like this, all right, I know, man, I know they're expensive. It's crazy, but it's worth it. It's worth every penny. Anytime that I've ever bought, all the ones that I've ever bought where I've spent money, I still have them, and I've used them now for years, and they're still really good. In fact, I have them at the shop with my good tools. You know, so yeah, you know, you kind of get what you pay for. If you're gonna buy Chinese tools, pay Chinese prices. I heard that in somebody's video and I loved it, so I'm stealing that line. You know, but as far as Harbor Freight goes, I mean, I don't know. You know, if it works, it works. You know, I mean, if it's something I don't buy jack stands there. I don't buy things that could potentially kill me. But, you know, if I need a impact hammer, that's not something that I need every day, so I'll buy a cheap one. You know, I got no problem with their welders. I like them. In fact, we're going to get to one of those right about now. So anyway, that's tools, and yeah, I hope it wasn't too bad. Thanks. All right, so time to look over the machine. So, like I said, what I picked up was one of the Chicago Electric's little Flux 125 machines. I think these are like $100, 120, something like that, new. Now these don't require an external shielding gas tank, okay? Welding techniques are no different with these. There are differences, I believe, in the quality of the look of the weld and the appearance and things like that. But you can still do good welds with flux core wire. The machine just has to be run right, okay? And that's what this is about. So there's a lot of tips that I'm going to give you here where if you're savvy and you pay attention, you might be able to fix a machine that you think is broken, or get a really good machine cheap because the person thinks it's broken, okay? So pay attention, because we're going to learn some things. So the MIG machine, first off, MIG, okay? Mixed inert gas, also known as GMAW, gas metal arc welding, okay? This machine does what's called inner shield, okay? It's a flux cord wire. There's a flux that creates a shielding gas. That shielding gas is what displaces the oxygen around the weld pool and keeps contamination from getting in it, and lets it do its thing. But that's a whole other thing. We'll get into that later. So anyway, just to go over the machine. This machine's really simple. I love it, okay? Wire feed speed, on-off switch, minimum and maximum setting. That would be your heat, okay? This thing's fine for me. For what I do at the house, I got to admit, I can't complain. The ground, okay, this is your ground clamp, all right? This really should be as close to your work as you can. You know, you want to, even with a good machine, you know, you really want to keep your ground as close to your work as possible. Make sure that you're on something that doesn't have paint or rust, you know, things like that. Make sure that you have a metal connection when you're hooking up your ground, okay? That's super important. This will not work without a ground. Okay, a lot of times I'll have to take a grinder and I might go someplace and grind a little paint off or something so that I know that I'm getting a good ground. That is crucial. Okay, this is called the whip or the stinger or the gun or whatever you want to call it. The thing that I see with these machines, with any cheap machine, is that, you know, it's built cheap, right? You know, the parts aren't really meant to take a hit. So you got to be careful with this stuff. Now, this wire, okay, that MIG wire comes through this and out. So this cannot get crushed. Okay, you can't step on this. You can't roll a hand truck over it. You don't want to drive a car over it. If you crush the liner that's inside of that, the machine will not work. The wire will not go through, or it'll come out real, you know, real staggered like that. Not impossible to replace the liner. Not even really that hard, but an unnecessary thing to do, you know, for just being careful and taking care of your stuff. Along with that, because the wire goes through, you want to avoid kinking this wire, you know, pulling it real tight. This is not a leash, okay? If you have your machine on a cart, this is not a leash. Don't go yanking and pulling, especially with a machine that has a tank. Okay, when we get into the machine, I'll show you some things, but it's very simple to pull this out a little bit, and then your shielding gas, which would be supplied by that big tank that's behind your machine, doesn't go down into the gun, right? It escapes inside. But you know, we'll go over that in a minute. So you know, really important to take care of this. Okay. So this gun, so this here, this is your shielding cone. Okay, now what your shielding cone does is your shielding cone creates, even with this stuff, even with a gasless wire, what it does is it creates enough of a atmospheric disturbance that it maintains that little cloud right there, right at the arc, and protects that weld pool. Okay, the first video that I did, it was, you know, I was going close. Remember, we showed, right? Remember the 3 big rules? If you're following me, which you should, smash that button if you're watching this long. Jeez, you know, be sure to subscribe to me, right? But watch that first video. You got to slow down, get close, and relax. Okay. But that's what that's about. You get too far away and your shielding gas goes and oxygen gets in, and that's where you get porosity. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm wandering. So this here is your contact tip. Okay. All right, and you just unscrew that. Okay. Your contact tip, you need to keep these components clean. Every once in a while, you need to stop and make sure that the spatter that builds up on the inside of your shielding cone, right? You want to make sure that that spatter is cleaned out. That's where our welpers would come in handy. Watch, it's magic, watch. Right, and you twist like that, break the stuff, or you could use that there on your shielding cone and get in there, right? But you gotta keep your tip clean. If this tip gets gunked up, it doesn't matter whether you're using inner shield or a gas. If that tip gets gunked up, then the gas is not going to be able to either get out of the cone or create that shield, and it's all going to go loopy. What eventually will happen is the material will build up in there, and eventually it will bridge the gap between the edge of this cone and the contact tip. Now, your contact tip is where the electricity contacts the wire, okay? So as soon as this is connected to this then becomes electrified. So now when you're moving, if this touches whatever you're working to, electricity takes the path of least resistance. It's gonna stop going out this wire. It's gonna melt back through. It's gonna go snap. Your tip is gonna get melted shut, right, with the wire, and all that electricity then is gonna go through the little bridge that you've made, out the side of your shielding cone and to whatever that you're welding near that you didn't want welded to. That is what's going to happen, and it will happen if you don't clean this, okay? Let's see here. This is a little gas diffuser, which I can imagine they have these holes here. See that? That's that would be a gas diffuser. I can only imagine that what Harbor Freight does is this is the same whip as what's used on a machine that takes gas, because there's no real reason for that to be here, along with that big cone. That's like a real, I mean, unless the guy changed this out, I don't know. I don't think so. But, you know, that's even that. You know, sometimes they've got like this black cone that goes real tight, and there's just a little teeny space. It's what it is. So, yeah. Anyway, screw that back on. Mine doesn't get tight. $50, right? I called Harbor Freight. I was like, would you let me borrow one? And they wouldn't do it. So, anyway. All right. So now, we understand the whip, the ground. Everybody knows how to plug it in, I assume, right? So we've talked about all these pieces. We're going to keep this in a nice and straight when we're getting ready to weld and do our thing, right? We've got a clean cone. We've got a nice fresh. Well, you don't have to have a fresh contact tip. It's like, you know, the wire needs to pass through it easily, but you don't want that and the wire going through and not touching, okay? If that happens, the wire's gonna come out, it's gonna get real long, it's gonna hit, it's gonna bend and hit and then go snap, and it's not gonna work out, okay? We'll get back to that in a sec. Anyway, so this is all good to go, right? We're ready to go. So now let's check the machine. Now this thing opens up this way, okay? And I hope that you can see all of this, right? Here, I'm gonna do this. Can I do that? Oh, maybe I can't. All right, we're just gonna have to use the force. So down here, here's your mechanism, okay? This is your spool. Right here, all this is doing is applying pressure to this spool to keep this thing from unwinding, okay, and losing. If that happens, you're really kind of out of luck, and you're going to need to get new wire, all right? That being said, this does not have to be super tight. This only needs to be tight enough so that when you release the trigger, this stops moving, okay? You know, your machine may vary. Sometimes these cheapies, you gotta crank them down a little extra. I'm just saying, it doesn't have to, you don't want to overdo it, okay? Down in here in the actual aperture, now notice the way this is. Do you see how this wire comes out? Okay, this wire obviously needs to be fed that way, okay, underneath. If you make a mistake and you feed it this way, it's never going to run right, okay? So that's one of those things that you can look to see if maybe somebody did that and their machine's not running right for them and they just kind of want to get rid of it. And I'm just saying, it happens, okay? Right here, this is your drive roller tensioner. Right here, there's a little screw here. There's a spring, and all it's doing is it's holding this down, which this opens up, and then this wheel right in here, this little skate bearing, basically is what it looks like, is your drive roller, okay? And what that does is that's actually the thing that's making the wire push through. Now, not so much on this machine, right? Because this is really basic, but other machines, a lot of other machines, you can change these, and you need to make them the right size for the wire. See, all this wire is sized, right? 045, 035, 020, 025. It's all sizes. And if you don't know what you have, you're going to go to the weld shop. You're going to walk in. You're going to see all these spools on the wall. You're not going to ask a question because that's not what people do. And you're just going to buy a spool. And if you try to put an 020 wire on a machine that's set up, let's say for 045 wire, it's never gonna go. You're gonna clamp this down. It's got an 045 drive roller, if that's what your machine will do, and it'll never grab it, and it'll never work right. Okay, so that's another way. It's another thing that you can check. That also counts with the contact tip. Right? Contact tips are sized. You want to use the right size contact tip. If the wire, remember I was talking about the wire just kind of going through it and then hitting and popping, bending, you just don't want it, right? Right tool for the job, so keep an eye on that. This drive roller tensioner, all this needs to be is tight enough to hold it down, okay? If you crank this down, all you're gonna do is crush the wire, okay? So this is something that I do. So silica packet. If this spool gets rusty, it's done. You can't weld. It's not going to work right, okay? If this wire gets rusty. I put a silica pack in here. If I'm not going to use this machine, put it away. I'm going to put it away, okay? If you buy a machine, you're using it once, and once in a great while for project, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Listen, I get it, I understand, everybody likes to see their tools, put them up on a shelf, and you can look at it and stuff. I totally get it. These are not the best thing to do, okay? The moisture gets in here, these aren't great machines to begin with, and they can really mess them up. Keep the box, and keep it in the box. Throw a silica packet in, or take the spool off. We'll go over that in another video. Take the spool off and put that somewhere. Just take care of it, and it'll last you, okay? Last thing in here, bring this back down, is this. All machines have this, okay? This is just a cheat sheet. What it does is it just tells you what wire you're using, what thickness of material, and it gives you settings, all right? Now those settings are just a starting point, and you still have to employ proper techniques with that, and that is stuff for the next video when we're actually gonna weld, okay? All right, so I think I've covered everything with the, other than with the machine, you don't want to use a long extension cord, okay? Especially those cheap $5, $10 orange ones, those are garbage. You know, you want to get good power to these, so either using a really good contractor grade extension cord or plugging it into the wall is best. It it matters. It matters with these things. I mean, look, it'll run on a cheap cord. I've done it. I'm just saying, okay. Anytime that you can remove one factor, it's just worth it. All right. So, yeah, I think that's the machine, and yeah, here I'll just give you, because I don't know if I got it. So let me just give you like some hand stuff on here. So, drive roller tensioner, drive roller, right? There's my spool thing, silica, and then there's my cheat sheet for this machine. All right. All right, so here we go. Last little bit for this video. We're just going to talk a little tiny bit about what's happening while we're welding. All right, so that's your base metal there, right? Your shielding cone. Okay, that's your gun. Here comes your wire. All right, now you need to be close. Okay, you have to think about a spark plug. Think about a car's spark plug, right? You got 2 points and the electricity goes between them, right? You got to make sure that it's close, otherwise it won't fire right. Think about how small that gap is on a spark plug, all right? It doesn't have to be that small, but it's tiny, right? So we're going to get close. The reason for that is as this wire comes out, when it gets close, right, depending on the direction that the electricity is traveling in, you get your spark, you get your arc right there. Now, with flux cord wire, what it does is it creates a gas cloud with shielding gas that's coming out here, right? And this gas cloud forms around the weld pool. Now, what you have to do is relax and slow down, and you let it build up so that it penetrates, right? And then what you're going to do is, maintaining that same distance, you're going to move either pushing or pulling. Okay, you have a choice. Pushing, you can usually see where you're going a little bit easier, and pulling, because it keeps the spark in the puddle longer, the arc in the puddle longer, you get a little bit deeper penetration. Okay, play around with both. But then what you're going to do is you're just going to take that, and as you move slowly, right, okay, and then you get a nice bead. All right, so that's what's happening when you're doing this. You're pulling that trigger, that wire's coming out, it's arcing. The 3 rules: get close, slow down, and relax. Get close, slow down, and relax. All right, we're going to go over it, but that relax part is we're going to take the time to make sure that there's nothing that's going to catch fire around us, right? We're not going to weld over top of buckets of gasoline, that sort of thing. All right. Yeah, okay. So there, just a quick little thing to explain what's going on and what this machine does and how it does it. Well, that took a hell of a lot longer than I thought. Yeah, well, so much for doing something quick, right? Well, that's all right. I mean, I love doing this, and I want to make sure that you guys get all the information. So basically what I did was what I would have done on a classroom, with a group on a Saturday afternoon. So there you go. Please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'd love some feedback. Please subscribe and hit your notification bell. And the next time I see you, we're going to weld. So, all right.